likes the slow and steady. Let's just take this under control. And already I have been denied, Papa Smithy, as the Karma is going to be banned away from Crown as we hop into Champion Slot.
And on patch 7.11, so no movement to 7.12. That should be next week, I would imagine.
We're still at the convenience store, Papa Smithy.
Yeah, the convenience store patch is very blue side focused. We've learned as the red side invariably ends up forced to ban at least 2 junglers, sometimes 3, to try to thin out the pool. But then you have champions like Galio that have to be respected from every mid laner, not just the top ones. And thus, picks keep slipping out to first pick. You have to be pretty creative to not stop there being a pretty significant advantage in the power level of first pick compared to what is available at the 2 selections on red side.
Not to mention the fact that you get so many more focused bans as well, given the fact that we see the Karma, we see the Gragas, and then the Syndra banned away, understandably. And these are the forced bans that Samsung sort of have to put down, and Ghost is going to get a free first pick Karma. I mean, it does mean that there are a few picks still open, like the Thresh, like the Tahm Kench, if Core JJ wants to go that way. Lee Sin as well.
Yeah, Lee Sin seen as the top-tier jungle to join Zac and Elise, but because you're against Bless, who has very much struggled on the Lee Sin 2 and 5 on the season, against other opposition, you'd be forced to choose between handing over Zac and Lee Sin. And Zac, based on power level, you want to deny, but Lee Sin, for certain players, is also ultimate comfort. So BBQ, look, they're happy to, for now at least, move away from the Lee Sin pick. Does mean that Rek'Sai might be considered. It's kind of surreal to see Umti playing 2 games of Patch 7.11 reworked Rek'Sai earlier this week. Didn't look fantastic, but it's going to continue to get chain buffs in the future.
Not going to lie to you, Papa Smithy, that made me a little bit sick. The Umti Warrior first Rek'Sai that just got blown up over and over again.
What about some more Rek'Sai right now?
All right, there we are. Good, great.
How you feeling?
Feeling brilliant. I do like the pick away of Lee Sin. Of course, Bless been playing the Lee Sin more than any other champion so far this season. But the Rek'Sai is a worry, Papa Smithy. I mean, Warrior Rek'Sai has been a tilter for many a caster in the past. It has worked. It has worked. If you manage to get a snowball, it clears the jungle extraordinarily fast. However, she's pretty good as a frontline, and if she builds Warrior Enchant into what was noticeably a black cleaver in that game, although I think it was only a few components that Umti was able to get to, it is a little bit dangerous, but that is going to be Orianna looked at. And that jungle mid-duo could be exciting out of Crown and Cube.
And I'm actually pretty excited about what BBQ are doing, because contrary to previous expectation, Rek'Sai kind of has to build AD to be relevant now. All her base values are way lower, and all her scalings are high and continue to be buffed in future patches. So you have to find ways to go AD. You will invariably be a lot squishier than before. You cannot just stack health and be an initiation with an AoE knockup. So setting up picks with the LeBlanc and Rek'Sai is a possibility. It should be a pretty high damage duo that, again, subverts old expectations of what Rek'Sai is. We're still learning about new Rek'Sai. I feel like 7.12 and future will perhaps get a bit more of an indication, but let's just check back into this game where Samsung have drafted about as standard as possible on the red side.
Going to ban away the Thresh there as well. And that is going to be Zyra and Kennen, the answering 2 bans from BBQ. And yes, I do need to say that, look, Rek'Sai has changed a lot, and probably shouldn't get as upset, but every time prior to the changes that you saw that Warrior Enchant, things were a worry on the Rift. And it did not change the Rek'Sai that we saw coming out of Umti for Jinair Green Wings. And it's going to be Braum locked in, though, so continuing down that standard path, Papa Smithy.
Speaking of standard, see some Bard potentially on the side of Totoro.
The max special.
Yeah, usually, as you say, a max-specific pick. There's a couple of mid laners. Core JJ has played it as well. It's very good against champions who position pretty much in the back of a team fight and try to rain down damage, and that can be Varus or Orianna, but they do in the end look for some wombo pick engage with the wild growth to actually give the AoE knockup back to Rek'Sai. Take that, Riot Games.
I like it. Give him some of that HP. We might be seeing this Rek'Sai work a little bit better than prior ones. However, that is going to be Renekton locked in as well, so BBQ setting themselves up a really nice, I guess, power spike curve in this composition. I like the Renekton for the early pressure towards the top side of the map. Gives Bless somewhere to go to possibly get ahead in the jungle as well. And you've got that Caitlyn for the late game and the split push potential coming out of the LeBlanc. I do actually really like what BBQ have put together.
It's new school comp coming through from BBQ. And the only question mark here is on if they're able to pull off the draft as one of these lower-ranked teams rather than the quality of the draft, because Rek'Sai LeBlanc is immense pressure. You get the Rek'Sai or LeBlanc snowballing, you take down a turret in one of the side lanes where you have push advantage, you park a LeBlanc with teleport and a couple of items in the side lane, and you have immense map pressure and the double teleport. So on paper, excellent, clean draft from the side of BBQ. But if things fall apart, if they fall behind, if Rek'Sai is slowly building AD from the jungle while Renekton is also missing out on his power window, Samsung will predictably win this game at 40 to 45 minutes. So I was looking for a new script where they would potentially be looking with an earlier focus, but this is Samsung Galaxy with ambition. Back to standard for them, and another sighting of the Kled coming through from Cuvée.
Yeah, Cuvée sort of new favorite there towards the top side of the map. And if you look down this lineup, Samsung are looking like a lot of comfort. Of course, Ambition on the Lee Sin is certainly a bit of a mix-up. He's played it a heck of a lot, but it isn't his flavor. We'll see whether it's going to be as we hop onto the Rift for game number 1, BBQ versus Samsung. Okay, not a whole lot of fans in the stadium just yet, Papa Smithy.
Well, we know why.
Some enthusiasm.
You and I know why, Atlas, because we walked outside and we realized today is a day to avoid the sun. It is a sluggish day.
Yep.
A
we need to build
Wednesday.
a tunnel to the stadium, damn it. That's all we need. Get people in here without having to go outside.
It is super sweltering weather, so I imagine most people are parked next to their fan or their air conditioning and just staying away from leaving the house.
But definitely still watching, because we've got some hype given the picks that BBQ have put together. I feel like if there's going to be a game that BBQ can win, it is most certainly this one. Of course, blue side advantage pretty strong.
Samsung fans handing out some of those light-up signs, so the Samsung faithful. Of course, as you say, smaller crowd than we're used to, but it is a match that's heavily expected to be a pretty quick affair for Samsung. And while quick affair may represent a 2-0, I have a feeling the game time is going to continue to be pretty lengthy, Atlas.
I think it may be extended, unless Ambition can get some fancy stuff done in the early game, but that is not the Ambition way. Slow and steady is certainly his opportune method of winning the race.
Bit of a surprise to see no Talia ban coming through to tempt. He's 2-2 on that pick, and it's kind of been a trademark of his ever since that pentakill early in the spring season.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the pick here of the LeBlanc certainly makes sense. More reliable than the Talia. Talia Rek'Sai have less innate synergy than Rek'Sai and LeBlanc because, hey, whether the chain or the knock-up hits first, can pretty much predict how a skirmish will look like when those two are involved.
Crocodile trap and a rope working out here for Cuvée towards the top side of the map, but not too much joy going to be coming from that, especially in the early stages. We'll see what happens level 3 or so, whether any junglers are going to turn up.
I'm really excited to see what happens next week, Atlas. And it's not just because the games are a bit more exciting next week, but it's actually because 7-12 will bring out the Doran Shield nerf. We still have the ability to buy a Doran Shield and 2 potions on patch 7.11. So theoretically, that means the more risky laners like the Fioras, Twitch, for example, are still runnable this week, just because it's harder to get weak laners out of lane with just access to a single potion in 7-12. I'm excited to see if that will really impact the meta, just literally denying 1 extra potion from a laner in the early game, because these things actually do tend to have pretty large impacts, even if on paper they look pretty small.
Yeah. And in reference to that, I am going to track the amount of Doran Shields this particular match and matches following, just so that I can report back to you, Papa Smithy, on how much it is going to impact the amount of shields that we're going to be seeing.
One of my favorite discussion points, Rift Herald and Doran Shield. That was exactly what preseason patches suggested is, Ghost is all alone.
Yeah, and Ambition wants this kill on the bottom side. That is going to be an easy Q, and they managed to get the kill over to Ruler. We said that Ambition, not necessarily that early game powerhouse, but he's going to flip the script on this one, Papa Smithy.
And just able to take advantage of the information they had, the fact that Lulu had left lane. Perfect wraparound gank timing coming through from Ambition. That really thwarted what was being set up in the bot side by BBQ. We talked about pushing lanes. They certainly were observed but they were also punished because the other side of the coin that we very rarely see is that, hey, if your lanes are pushing, they're usually more ripe for the early gank, and credit Ambition, usually one of our biggest farming junglers, rewriting the script and getting an advantage for Samsung.
Yeah, really looking good, but here's a possible three-man gank onto a wounded Cuvée on the top side of the map. This could be a struggle, of course. We've seen these dives go awry, and he does manage to go untargetable. It's going to be first blood going to Bless, but he'll die for it and lose his double buffs. That one-for-one trade is not what you're looking for, and only 10 seconds, and Cuvée will make it back. Crown's even going to be able to pick up the farm.
Yeah, a big grouped wave would have been the only difference, and still a disadvantage for BBQ, given how many people they invested into the top side. But with Crown picking up the minion wave, no advantages to be drawn out. Just a misfire from BBQ, especially as a counterpoint to how clean Ambition's visit to the bot lane was just a few moments earlier.
Yeah, and all of that information given over to Samsung. Ambition's even going to deny this Raptor camp as he goes back home. Thought he might actually go for some Krugs as well, but he's not going to be greedy. This is the Ambition way. He wants to make sure that everything is tidy on the Rift, not leaving himself open as Cuvée. All right, that bear trap is going to not quite land, but Crazy, he's going to have to go home.
Just as he had teleported in with an item advantage. I guess it was item parity if you look at it, but Crazy was very heavily losing that trade. Both top laners with fervor, so Cuvée opening up and being able to juggle minion aggro better really did shut down Crazy. Puts him in an awkward spot where we already mentioned he really wants to be overextending and pushing in this lane to allow Bless to do what you see on your screen. Contest Ambition in the jungle.
Yeah, well, Crown's actually going to get snared up here. It's going to prevent him from helping Ambition, only for a little while, as Bless does head his way through. Not going to be able to deter Ambition from taking this Raptor, though. Well, it may releash. Get a bit dangerous. There we go. Seeker not going to be able to find any joy. So, jungle is now just looking for some camps. Bless with a few more options on the map, as there's a shockwave in the mid lane. Crown just forcing Tempt out. Knows that there's no teleport. If he has to go back home, that could be a lot of creeps denied. Given Crown's access to a lot of wave clear, as you can see right here.
Really nice turnaround from Crown. He actually got access to the shockwave as he put his command attack through the minions, and thus caught Tempt by surprise with the shockwave. It's that health advantage like you mentioned, and no regen available to Tempt.
Yeah.
Popping his last biscuit now.
Darkseal going to help him get a little bit more out of that one. Here's Bless. Tunnels his way through, and Ambition just flat out misses the Q.
That was some old man mechanics there, Atlas.
That was. Wouldn't have seen it from his mid lane Kha'Zix back in the day. Somehow managed to not connect his Q to anything there as well when there's a whole bunch of Krugs, but they hadn't quite spawned yet, which is a little bit unfortunate.
Actually a pretty significant miss, because if you look, they've invested 2 control wards to the red side jungle, so they really invested a lot to prep that particular face check and thus get an advantage. So now the gold invested in setting it up, and also the pressure that had to come together to allow a red buff invade was completely for naught, so big misfire there from Ambition. It's going to stick around though, they still have those wards, so contesting red buff is a realistic objective here for Samsung.
No, it's a 3 versus 2 here at this stage, but Crown is moving down. Should manage to get some form of releash on this one, as Tempt takes a lot of damage, lands some chains, but won't be able to get the roots. The Brambleback will head back home, hope to not be bothered any further.
Tempt forced out of lane, doesn't mean they have a numbers disadvantage here, BBQ. They'll stay. Obviously is on low health. Shockwave now back available. Wasn't available when the QW came in onto Tempt as he face checked.
Should mean that Samsung will be able to steal away this red buff. Tempt had to go back to base, doesn't have teleport. He's actually just going to go back now after clearing that mid lane, but they knew exactly where he was. Positional advantage for Samsung, and they're going to continue to build this relatively small lead. But you mentioned that their game plan, let's draw this one out, play for the late game. They've already done their best to put Ghost behind, which is very important. Ruler actually showed us what you can do if you're just a Caitlyn that manages to get a kill or two.
Samsung sussing out this counter red buff steal. Here comes the smite, but both of them are here.
Yeah, well, Crazy's going to slice and dice his way out, but Bear Trap is going to land onto Crazy. Lots of damage coming in, and that's going to be the shockwave. The Dissonance picks up the kill, and now Bless, he's in trouble. This is the Warrior Rek'Sai, remember. He's going to get blown up as Tempt makes his way through. Wants to be able to get the trade. Bless almost survives, but doesn't. The flash out from Ambition. He's looking for the Q, but it's going to be Cuvee that helps with the damage and the double for Ambition. This early game now completely belongs to Samsung.
Yeah, big disrespect coming through from Crazy, who didn't realize, or at least didn't respect, that the ball was still leashed onto Cuvee. Didn't use the Dominus, didn't flash out, just ate the Shockwave and died before being able to use anything. You'll see the replay here. So they turn onto Cuvee and then realize they need to back away. But there's so much time for Crazy to pop the Dominus, to flash, but just dies to the Shockwave and the next immediate barrage of damage. Bless caught nowhere, pops his ultimate just to have a chance to live for an extra second, and even flashes afterwards, but cruelly was taken down by Ambition with a parting Q. They turn on to Tempt. Big win here for the side of Samsung. And that cements their lead because they were the ones who set up the aggressive vision, predicted the counter invade by BBQ, and cleaned that up as well.
Yeah, and now it's going to stretch out to about a 2,000 gold lead. No turrets to fall just yet. Neither team with too much of a massive pushing advantage, apart from Crazy towards that top side, who has a considerable lead as far as farm.
Game plan's already starting to fall apart though for BBQ.
Yeah.
A lot of their lead was kind of predicated, and their comp predicated in getting ahead early. Warrior Rek'Sai doesn't have the same teamfight backup that old Rek'Sai builds did. They're looking to specifically have power around LeBlanc with this Rek'Sai pick, and that's why they visit again.
Preyseeker does find Crown, but not going to get shattered. Everything's going to be A-OK Samsung. It just feels like the Samsung answers are far more than what the BBQ pressure can actually put out. Ambition going to get a sneaky shield. That was a beautiful way to pick up a blue buff. Crown, liked it.
And assessing expectations of Rek'Sai is still very difficult. It's before the latest buff comes through, but Rek'Sai, you can't help but see Rek'Sai and think, okay, global in presence, going to be everywhere, build tanky, looking for AoE knockups. That's really not the new Rek'Sai. The moment you take away a global and increase a damaging ability, you have to realize she really is about focusing down single targets, deleting members with sheer damage, and thus LeBlanc and a very high damage jungler is a lot of pressure around the mid lane and potentially rotating to other lanes if they get ahead. But then the other side of the coin is if she falls behind, she's a melee assassin or a melee DPS who doesn't have access to as much farm as a laner, and thus will be incredibly useless as the game goes on. So very much the focus is get LeBlanc and Rek'Sai ahead, or really pay the cost later in the game.
Yep. Feels like a bit of a gamble picking this Rek'Sai, and we've seen it not necessarily pay off so far here in LCK. Hasn't been top teams that have been experimenting with her on this particular patch, though.
Jinair and BBQ seem to be the big teams, and Bless was a legacy Rek'Sai player, but
yeah, and actually that's the wrong thing to say, because Jinair is certainly a team not to be trifled with this particular split of the LCK, but it was in a difficult matchup. They tried to pull that one out.
No point was Samsung interested in ending the laning phase and going for a lane swap, just choosing to keep things 2v2. So for now, the Rift Herald has been uninvestigated as an objective, and they do actually get the turret advantage with the late game teamfighting draft they have, which is pretty happy times for Samsung.
Oh yeah, that early gank really paying off for Ambition. Item advantage for the Varus, meaning that he's able to keep pushing things through. There's a 25 CS lead before Ghost was able to take down this minion wave as well. Samsung Galaxy just moved towards the top side of the map, playing this one pretty standard. And they managed to take the dragon as well. This is what having the cake and eating it too looks like, Pop Smithy.
And it's also a departure from the Samsung Galaxy we saw against Everate. Even just invading with vision, with rotations, as both lanes were pushed up, was a positive movement for Samsung, who didn't show this level of play against Everate. Again, maybe because they were still in the same match week as their loss to KT. But this time it's been the ordered, smart Samsung Galaxy that may not be reining in the kills or making a super bloodthirsty game. But so far, BBQ have kind of been smothered out of a game where they needed to take the advantage early. As well, Rek'Sai can't see Ambition.
Yep, and that is going to be a bear trap on a rope. Make that a Rek'Sai trap on a rope, as Ambition's able to pick up that kill. That makes it his third for the game. He's now on a killing spree as well. So we're going to see the charge coming in. Totoro, oh, that's a fat flash. PH fat flash, Smithy, as there's the shockwave flash. from Ghost, and that is a big deal. You'll trade that any day of the week, and Samsung should be able to grab this top outer turret as well. This mid lane tower is not going to fall down at the same time. Samsung continue to get advantages that are unanswerable by BBQ.
And crucially, they're kind of unanswerable because BBQ is choosing to try to defend turrets that are indefensible with the setup and the multiple step setup that Samsung is investing. Usually we see teams trade objectives on the other side of the map rather than trying to defend an outer top lane turret when they don't really have the vision, they didn't have the jungler there either. Speaking of the jungler.
Oh, good flash from Core JJ. Unbreakable comes in. He should still die as the heal! The stand behind me! The one last auto attack, make it two! And Ghost picks up the kill. Not too much more is going to come out of this, and Rift Herald is now stopped. We've got a Dominus coming out from Crazy. As Ruler wants to get out of that stun and does so. Not going to be snared up by the chains as Cuvée continues to shove towards the bottom side. But the first bit of good news for BBQ is this Rift Herald will go over to them.
Yeah, Rift Herald really does stay leashed for a long time. Did not gain any health during the chase that forced Ruler to flash under turret. And BBQ say thank you for the leash. They pick up the Rift Herald against the flow of play and get a bonus objective to try to slow down what is already almost a 5,000 gold lead for Samsung.
Yeah, big snowball starting up here for Samsung. Ghost, though, building towards his items. As his BF sword, looks like he's going towards a static shiv or something like that at the same time. Could be rapid fire cannon. He'll probably end up with both of them at some point in this game, as most Caitlyn's have been opting into that particular build.
You kind of worry about Tempt going for a Gunblade from behind in a game where the team with the pushing advantage is already down to turrets. You worry that the split push, which is what is really afforded by the Gunblade rush, just may never happen here for the side of BBQ. They're just multiple turrets behind. It's very hard to have the vision to safely engineer the sort of split push that BBQ have selected for. There's still time. They need to actually make things happen soon, though, because right now, as you can see on the screen, it's largely just Samsung deciding every map rotation with an outscale comp.
Yeah. I'm making this 4-1 composition work quite well at the same time. Lots of wave clear to be had here in this mid lane. They can push pretty happily. Cuvée certainly winning this 1v1 against Crazy. Got himself back to even CS as well. Remember, that lead for Crazy was huge when they were on the top side.
I mean, sometimes you can tell the lead of a game through something very indirect, and in this game, it was the fact that at 16 minutes in, Ruler could cut through basically the enemy's inner turret straight to bot lane and not be scared of a gank, not be scared of being collapsed upon against a LeBlanc Rek'Sai Renekton comp. It lets you know that he's not respecting turnaround. He's happy to cut through inner objectives super early in the game, and Samsung basically, with play like this, is saying, we're running the game, we're not really worried about any turnarounds, and even with the Rift Herald being used in topside, they're not actually worried about potentially trading down in turrets, and they might even die.
Yeah, there is a charge to come in as Cuvée. Oh, fantastic interrupt with the wild growth onto Ghost, but that is only going to delay the kills, not necessarily delay this turret, as Crazy did go in, and that is a hula hoop in the mid lane. Bit of a celebratory shockwave to come down from Crown.
BBQ should be able to get 2 turrets for 2 because no one is here to answer the Rift Herald. But because they don't have any vision in the red side jungle, LeBlanc has to abandon it, and thus they'll only get most of this inner turret. Ambition will rock up and bash it from behind, and that means goodbye, Rift Herald.
Yeah, and he gets shot by the turret as well. I mean, I feel like that's cheating. But with 3 people, Samsung easily deal with that. Only a third health on that inner turret, though. Certainly a victory for BBQ, as that's not going to regen its health. It's not an inhibitor turret or anything crazy like that. Gunblade complete for Tempt, as that split push build that you were alluding to before has been opted into. I was going to ask you whether maybe a different Hextech item could be an option if you're falling behind, but I don't know whether that would necessarily be the best. Dash Cannon feels odd, and the Super Soaker is not exactly something that you see a lot on the old LeBlanc.
Yeah, the GLP, just because you don't really want to itemize into a Catalyst, feels bad, as some of the stats don't go to great use. The Proto Belt was used a bit on LeBlanc. It felt like for a second it was the meta build, but since the nerf quite a few patches ago now, people really do prefer the sustain that comes through from the Gunblade. Probably going to be a bit of an empty argument, though, given how little is actually happening with the LeBlanc, who was in a side lane during the last phase of the game.
Yeah. Crown almost has that 2-item spike with the Banshees as well as Umbrella Nomicon. It's just weird looking at Crown without a Leandri's Torment in his item build path as number 2.
There's still time, Atlas.
Yep.
There's still 3rd or 4th item. He might have to delay it.
This is still part of the Crown build as well, you know? Like Banshee's Veil, Morellonomicon, most certainly solid staples. As we know that he's a mastery player, but he's also a mastery player when it comes to what items he builds. Certainly stuck in there as Cuvée. He's going to run his way back towards the bottom side of the map and corral this minion wave that has built up towards the inhibitor turret and really start putting on some big pressure. 6,000 gold is the lead for Samsung. 5 turrets to 1 is the main thing to look at, though, because they own the map. They're the ones that seem to be able to walk everywhere and get everything done. There has been some decent vision clawed back by BBQ, especially towards that bottom side of the map. It seems that's not going to be where the focus is for Samsung, as you can see a few members moving up here towards the top side.
Baron about to spawn in 30 seconds, but not going to be an objective that I imagine Samsung's going to rush down. However, the trend recently has been a lot of 20 to 28 minute Barons where teams don't have good ward coverage around the area, and regardless of team strength, people have been taking down Barons with no contest at alarming frequency between 20 and 30 minutes. So it's one of those take-home messages, Mr. Rogers style, that people really need to look at this week is better vision and better control around the Baron, because it's just been too easy for teams to get a large lead, because just after Rift Herald becomes an objective of 15 to 80 minutes, there seems to just be a lapse in judgment around 18 to 25 minutes around that Baron.
Do you think something like the extra pickups of champions like Kalista and with Zarya now making her way into the meta as well? I mean, do we feel like the extra Baron security that you get from those champions is also helping that one?
I imagine it might be at least a consideration, Atlas, as Cuvée has to deal with 2 people.
Yeah, we'll see whether he can do his best 957 impression to try and get himself out of this. Gonna flash.
Get out.
All too easy. That outer turret still available in Samsung Galaxy. Make use of that by heading towards the top side and ripping through this turret like it is made of butter.
And you see the difference between Samsung when they're getting focused down. As speaking of being focused down, Temp's probably going to lose Skull.
Yep, is. The shotgun's his way back. He's trying to do what he can, but it's going to be Crazy that locks down the kill. So tempted fate just a little bit there.
Unnecessary from Cuvée, so they probably will lose that turret in bot lane. Samsung continue to try making the trades, and that's the point I was trying to get to, is that Samsung is being proactive. When they see 2 members drawn, they will try to get advantages on the map, and it was only a positioning mistake from Cuvée that stopped that being a free inner turret for just a bit of time invested in trying to shut down Cuvée.
Yeah. I also do like the fact that BBQ put both of their teleports down there as well, which are available, so no Baron to be threatened from Samsung, apart from just being able to secure vision. Ambition finds himself a Mimic. He's frustrated by the clone. I feel like we still haven't really seen optimal use of the LeBlanc Mimics.
I know I'm a big fan of the LeBlanc Mimic into Galio Ultimate, because you can use Galio Ultimate on the clone. That's one of the
that's cool.
sickest initiation combos. Seen that a couple of times in pro play. I think using it for anything other than dodging skill shots has been not something people have invested in. It kind of remembers me of days gone past where people just went for the reliable use of an ability rather than necessarily the more creative use.
Yeah, it was like the beginning of Realm Warp. You know, when that first came out, it was all used as sort of pretty telegraphed initiation, and then we saw the creative Baron takes and all of these sort of fancy maneuvers with moving minions around and stuff like that. So looking forward to seeing whether someone figures out fancy use of the LeBlanc. I'm sure someone has in solo queue. I'm sure someone tweeted to me about that cool thing that they did with LeBlanc clone, but haven't seen it as much here at the LCK.
Well, to be fair, I believe everything is on YouTube in some form or the other, whether it's League of Legends interaction
is it
or
like,
a song.
Rule 32? Is it Rule 32 that there's literally everything on the internet?
I'm hoping that's Rule 32 and not one of the other rules that's in the 30s that we're not talking about right now.
Yep, pretty sure I ran into that by accident. But don't worry, we didn't actually say anything about
No, we
Proximity.
didn't.
We're fine. Got it nailed. As Samsung Galaxy just continue to put pressure on. Crazy. Gonna run into Cuvée, but
Cuvé's happy to walk into this.
yeah.
Violent Tendency does so much damage at this point, but LeBlanc's there as Baron is started by Samsung.
Oh, good flash from Crazy to get him off the charge. It's going to be the kill, but this trade should be happening. Teleport immediately to come in from both the solo laners as Bless. He's in trouble. This Baron actually needs to be focused because it's a man advantage. He's inside the pit, has to flash out. Oh my goodness, that shockwave was not what Crown was looking for. And this is going to spell the reset from Samsung. They have no tools to secure this Baron buff.
Surprising stuff from Samsung, pushing away when the Baron was sub 2,000 up, did not want to opt into a Smite War. Surprisingly measured given how many teams have lost in this scenario. Samsung pull away, don't get an advantage on the other side of the map. Cuvée will have teleport when he respawns right now.
Okay. Jumps back on Skull, looks like he's going to head back towards the bottom side of the map, so Samsung just happy to go for this Baron bait once again, now with a teleport advantage. Not a lot of turrets left on the map here for BBQ, so this map is very, very open for them. Samsung continue to have complete control of the vision towards this top side. Bottom side control ward's still there for BBQ, but it's doing absolutely nothing. It's only a Cloud Drake coming up for our third dragon of the game, so it's been a cloudy and rainy day on Summoner's Rift. It's not exactly what you want to be seeing if you want late game scaling, but it is absolutely fine. Samsung happy to pick up the first two, and BBQ will take Constellation Cloud.
And they'll always start it. There's almost no risk to this play because Caitlyn can DPS it down over the wall. Bless can join her over the wall shortly afterwards, so free Drake, but like you say, not a consequential one. All the vision from Samsung has been placed around the Baron, so they wouldn't be moving the vision for a Cloud Drake in the bottom side. Smarter BBQ to recognize, okay, free objective, back away, and now they'll return inevitably to contesting vision on the top side as Samsung tries to cement that Baron vision.
Yeah. Still unable to clear out all of the wards here in this Baron pit. There's a sneaky one just over the wall. Giving BBQ a lot of information, time to work out what they want to do. But the jungle is extremely bare. Ghost can't move up anywhere near this river, even with Rek'Sai hanging out to try and support him, as well as Totoro.
I have a surprising choice by Totoro to go for the Mikhail's Rush.
Wow, yeah.
There's not that much pick CC on the side of Samsung, so surprised to see it on BBQ's side. As you can see, this time with a Blanc and Vision, Cuvée is very heavily winning these trades.
Yep, and no teleport available as well, as the Dominus is going to come out. Cuvée may not even lose Skull as he runs back. There's the flash. See whether he's going to be fast enough. There it is. Actually uses a minion to get that last little hit.
Turn on to Ghost here.
Yeah, grabs his Skull back, and now Ghost, he's going to have to be forced to run away, but Bear Trap on the rope keeps him there. A lot of damage. The flash, the kick. Is the Q going to be followed? Wild Growth is going to be enough to deter Ambition from following underneath the turret. That is going to be Cuvée surviving once again, and Less Tempt can find this kill, but he misses the chain and has to go back to that distortion. Unfortunate stuff, and Samsung are going to waste no time in capitalizing. This inhibitor turret is not long for the world, and we wanted clean play from Samsung Galaxy. We got it here today, Papa Smithy. This game has been from good to better for Samsung and from bad to worse for BBQ.
Yeah, and Cuvée finally doesn't have to deal with LeBlanc on the bot side of the map and shows us why. He's played himself into form and into contention among top laners in Korea with the Kled pick, looking to move to 6-2 on the season with a win in this game. Very nice start there, and Ghost walked up, realized he didn't have coverage, and also that the Skull bar was almost full. Would have been taken out if not for reinforcements on his side. Was actually risky for Ghost to push up that far. No one had vision of red side jungle. His Ambition's fought all alone.
Yeah, Prob's dead. In fact, he's going to be taken out. So Baron is, of course, still available. And possibly an opportunity, given that lapse of judgment that Ambition did have. And he's going to be gone for 30 seconds.
Same time, Crown is going for a back, which is pretty greedy for his part as well. So BBQ gonna rush their way towards Baron. Starting it is risky with Cuvée on the map. They will at least get vision around the area.
I really hope the Crown border haunted, guys. Oh, he didn't. Aether Wisp. Unfortunate. Going for the Luden's Echo. Probably not going to see a Leandri's Torment, Papa Smithy, and I am very sad about it.
Probably not going to see a Rek'Sai win anytime soon either.
There's a few things to be sad about this game. Still a few things to be happy about. Did mention that Cuvée having a day out on the Kled. Great to see that ruler once again having an outstanding performance, and now with his 3-item power spike with that Infinity Edge just completed, this Varus is going to be doing a hell of a lot of damage.
You just feel that if Bless had pre-planned going this build, and we can't know because BBQ fell behind in the 2v2, but if Bless had pre-planned going tank Rek'Sai with the changes, it feels like there is a handful of junglers that would have done a much superior job on the same sort of income, so less attack damage items might make you smile, Atlas, but it really puzzles me as to why the Rek'Sai was chosen.
Yeah. looking forward to seeing what the Warrior Enchant Rek'Sai can do when it works, because obviously it must be working somewhere. Although it hasn't really been bringing anyone too much joy thus far.
There hasn't been a single game win for Rek'Sai in LCK Summer. I believe we had 2 games of Rek'Sai before the changes, and then post-changes. Even Peanut got a loss on it, so this hasn't been working.
Yep. QV actually losing out on this trade here. It was Crazy doing some work. Dominance has been popped. As the flash didn't get Crazy in front, and that is going to be the charge to get QV out to safety. And this is one of the reasons why Kled is such a frustrating split pusher to deal with. He can be so slippery.
Just another time that BBQ looked for the 2-man bot lane because teleports were both back up. Speaking of teleports, QV will probably have to come in. Samsung pull off the Baron. They turn on Rek'Sai.
Yeah, they're going to be able to pick up the kill onto Bless very quickly. The stun comes down, Wild Growth, but he was pretty obviously dead. A bit of a wasted cooldown there as it's QV that really wants this engagement. Samsung should be able to just head back towards the Baron. They've got sole vision of the area, a dissonance with the speed up. They should be able to take this one down without any problems at all. Smite advantage, well and truly there.
Yeah, smart of Samsung, they all stood stationary, no tremor sense of vision coming through. Thus, Rek'Sai came through, was picked first, they turn onto the Baron. Minion waves aren't in a great spot, so they probably won't be able to end the game on this push. Probably not going to be too many more for Samsung Galaxy.
Well, CoreJJ is going to find Temp, tags him with the concussive blows as Ambition, he misses the Q. CoreJJ missed his as well, so Ambition doesn't need to feel too bad about himself, but Temp definitely survives.
Somewhere Wolf is smiling, going like, well, that wasn't a prediction like mine yesterday. On the bottom, harder task here, because couldn't just predict that LeBlanc would snap back to W. Couldn't even force the W out. Very hard to chase down a LeBlanc in a long lane. They usher in the minion wave. Samsung looking to break the base in a second spot here in top lane.
Pretty trappy times here as well, as they are going to find their way to the left-hand side. I guess stage left is more correct.
CoreJJ tanking up the turret, but doesn't have to worry. Shield, multitude of other factors, meaning he's happy to step up as comes 2 super minion waves, and maybe this will be the push as Ruler.
Oh, he throws it the right direction as well. Ruler's going to be able to lock down the kill. 4 Crown onto the mid laner. And now with a man advantage and a charge here from QV, it should be Samsung Galaxy pushing through for the victory. Academic is certainly the word that comes to mind as Samsung made this late game composition look like an early game one. The Nexus is going to go, and that is 1-0 so far in this series. We were expecting it to go a similar way, but after that Ever 8 series we had questions. Do you feel like they're on their way to being answered, Papa Smith?
It just feels like if you skipped week 3 last week of the LCK, this was Samsung business as usual. But if you had seen the last 2 series, you needed to see Samsung play a game like this. You saw the drafting like, oh, is it just going to be another late game, vacating the early game, another series where they win with a gold deficit? The answer was no. They didn't make the adjustments in draft, but they made the adjustments in play. Playing around Ambition, invading. He got a lot of the early kills and thus was feeling powerful. And from there, they contested red buffs. They didn't give up a lot. They made smart macro decisions in the late game. And it was, as you say, Atlas, Samsung returning to form, playing smartly, and didn't really look like losing through the course of 35 minutes.
Yep, they looked absolutely fantastic. Shout out to QV on his comfort Kled, but we do have blue side now going over to Samsung as well. So I feel like it could get even easier moving into game number 2 for this team, unless this BBQ roster has some surprises up their sleeve. We've known them to be able to mix things up in the past, but just feels so difficult and so uphill against Samsung, which are a team looking to try and solidify first place. And with a 2-0, they certainly will be able to.
And it doesn't feel like the draft is going to be their salvation. As we liked what BBQ drafted, it had an identity, it did things, but they missed their window, and thus the draft kind of fell apart. So if Samsung feel like they can just say, whatever you guys do, we'll play our way and just succeed, then I think it's going to be a 2-0.
Most certainly will, but we'll see whether it's going to be after this short commercial break. Don't go anywhere.